according to their forecast 2024. And it's going to, the gap, or the shortage of silver, if you like, is going to continue getting wider as far out as the eye can see. The silver price probably, over the next few years, will probably head upwards. How high could it go? Well, the previous peak was $50. It's below $30 as I speak. I think that it could easily go past the previous peak, probably not this year, but certainly in the next year or so, maybe 2 years, 3 years, that peak of 50 could be passed. That's not advice, it's just my personal opinion.
Silver spot prices have outperformed gold in 2024, rising almost 40% in the first half of the year, to test the all-time high of around $32.07 at the end of the second quarter. The silver supply has been shrinking annually, with a notable deficit emerging as early as 2022. This shortfall is exacerbated by rising consumption in electronics and photovoltaic applications, which are expected to continue expanding. Clive Thompson, formerly in wealth management and Swiss private banking, anticipates that the shortage will persist and worsen. He believes this will potentially drive silver prices beyond previous peaks as higher prices incentivize increased recycling efforts. Thompson highlights the overall growth in silver demand since 2015, noting that in 2023, silver consumption increased significantly, primarily due to the electronics industry, which used 20% more silver than the previous year. A major contributor to this increase was the photovoltaic sector, which consumed 67% more silver. According to an annual analysis from the Silver Institute, the worldwide market for silver is forecasted to have a fourth consecutive year of supply shortfall. This year, silver has outperformed gold in terms of gains. The World Silver Survey, which was issued in mid-April, indicates that the worldwide industrial demand for silver is forecasted to grow to a new record high this year, contributing to the shortage. Santa Cruz Silver Mining Limited reported strong Q2 2024 production results, with significant increases in processed material and silver equivalent ounces across its Bolivian and Mexican operations. The company produced a total of nearly 4.82 million silver equivalent ounces during the quarter, comprising 1.67 million ounces of silver. Clive Thompson believes that this dynamic will drive the silver price upwards over the next few years. While the previous peak price of silver was $50, and it is currently below $30, he thinks it could surpass the previous peak within the next few years, potentially in 2 to 3 years. Before we explore further, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to stay tuned for more engaging content.
We're looking here at a chart over the last decade of the amount of silver which has been mined, and that is the green line, which is sloping gradually downwards, and it's in millions of ounces. So it's gone down from about 950 in 2015 to from about 900 million ounces a year being mined to the current just over 800 million ounces a year being mined. So the amount of silver being mined is dropping a little bit each year. And then we've got the blue line, which shows the consumption of silver for uses like electronics and so forth, the normal uses of silver, not including the manufacture of silver coins or silver bars. It's basically the manufacture of any industrial use, whatever it may be. And we see that back in 2015, it was around 750 million ounces being used compared with the 900 million being mined. So they had less being used than mined. And if we step forward to the year 2022, that was the first year in which the amount of silver being consumed by the industry exceeded the amount being mined. And 2023, the amount being consumed went up a lot. And the reason for that in 2023 was the electronics industry consumed an extra 20% of silver compared with the year before. And the subcomponent of electronics industry is the photovoltaic area, which consumed, I think it was 67% more silver in the year. And those numbers are set to continue, at least according to the forecast from the Silver Institute, so much so that the small gap which we had in 2022 became a slightly larger gap in 2023 and will become a very large gap next year or this year, if you like, according to their forecast 2024. And it's going to the gap, or the shortage of silver, if you like, is going to continue getting wider as far out as the eye can see. The reason for that is we're not going to have less electronics on the planet. We're not going to have less photovoltaic on the planet. So just talking about photovoltaic, that's people often think about solar panels on your roof, but it's not just that. There are so many household items and other items which have got photovoltaic cells now, ranging from battery chargers to Internet of Things devices. Almost everywhere you look, you can see these solar panels, security cameras. So there's more and more of them going into electronic devices, and that's consuming a lot of silver and pushing up the consumption of silver. So that's not going to go away. Will the supply of silver increase? It could do, but it's not going to be very fast because most of the silver is mined as a byproduct of other metals. And when you're opening up a pure silver mine, it can take a number of years. So that downwards trend in the mine production of silver is probably going to continue along those lines for a while. And the upward trend in consumption is likely to continue. So if you can see the chart, the blue line heading upwards, we are already well ahead in terms of the shortage getting bigger and bigger, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. Now, the difference between the shortage of silver, where is that supplied from? It's supplied from recycling. But the way you get recycling is you've got to have a higher price to get your granny to take her candlesticks down to the pawn shop and have them melted down. I'm certainly not going to be taking my silver coins to the coin shop and having them melted down, but some people might be if they're desperate for the cash. But the higher it goes, the higher the price goes, the more likely they'll do that. So to get that silver, to meet that shortage, there's got to be more recycled silver, which in my mind means that the silver price probably over the next few years will probably head upwards. How high could it go? Well, the previous peak was $50. It's below $30 as I speak. I think that it could easily go past the previous peak. Probably not this year, but certainly in the next year or so, maybe 2 years, 3 years, that peak of 50 could be passed. That's not advice. It's just my personal opinion, because when you have a shortage of something, the price has to go higher to either reduce the demand or increase the supply. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
As gold and silver prices rise, junior gold miners with untapped reserves become more viable. These smaller mining companies are becoming rapidly more valuable, even though their share prices haven't moved much yet. Large mining companies are likely to seize this opportunity to increase their reserves through acquisitions. Thompson mentioned that over the past 11 or 12 years, gold and silver miners have declined from their levels of 10 or 11 years ago, despite the fact that silver and gold prices have both increased. Mexico and Peru, the world's two largest silver suppliers, are experiencing multi-year lows in output. The outlook for new silver mines is bleak, as the process of discovering, approving, financing, and building new mines now takes 10 to 15 years. The only way to achieve this is by acquiring other companies, which makes the current period ripe for M&A activity in the mining sector. Now, let's delve into the video.
I think the reason they've underperformed for the last decade or more, and it's been a very long period, in fact, if you look back over about 11 or 12 years, gold and silver miners are all down from the level of 10 or 11 years ago, and silver and gold are both up. I think the reason is that people have become quite disillusioned with gold and silver mining companies, which probably were a bit overpriced back then. And the rest of the stock market has been rising like a rocket, and people have been withdrawing money from their, certainly last couple of years anyway, from the rather stale and boring gold and silver mining companies, which were really doing nothing. The prices weren't going up. And they've said, I'm going to buy something which is actually moving. And we all know the kind of things which are moving. So the money is flowing into the hot stocks and the ones which are moving up. That might well continue. But I'm going to tell you a reason why, even if it does continue, I think the gold and silver stocks will start to rise in the near term. And that reason is mergers and acquisitions. If you're a large gold mining company, there's never been a better time to buy one of your competitors, one of your smaller competitors, one of your cash-strapped competitors who've got lots of gold or lots of silver in the ground, but don't have the cash to pull it out. And if you can buy a competitor who's somewhere within easy reach of your existing mines, it makes the logistics of moving equipment around much easier. And why is it attractive? Well, it's attractive because Gold and silver prices are both up a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years. But the mining stocks are, they moved up, but nothing like the gold and silver price. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck if you buy one of your competitors now than you would have done a year or 2 years ago. And the other factor is, as the gold and silver prices rise, it means that these junior gold miners who don't have the cash to do much mining, they do some, can't get the extra gold. The gold which is in the ground suddenly becomes viable. It wasn't viable at, let's say, $1,600 an ounce. It was perhaps only just viable at $2,000 an ounce, but at $2,400 an ounce is very viable. So these smaller mining companies with a lot of gold, a lot of silver in the ground, or the potential for it, are becoming rapidly a lot more valuable as the gold becomes viable to get out of the ground. But the share prices haven't moved enough, or they moved up a bit, but hardly moved. So the large mining companies are going to be looking at this. They've got to be looking at it and saying, now is the best time to snap up reserves and increase our potential reserves. And I'm not going to say the names of specific companies here, but I was looking at one very large, very well-known, it's in the top 10 anyway, let's say, mining company, who says it in words of one syllable in their annual report that over the years, they've been increasing their reserves. They have far more reserves today than they had 10 years ago, and they plan to keep doing that. How do they do it? The only way to do it is to buy other companies.
According to the report, the global demand for silver massively exceeded supply last year, and this trend is predicted to continue for a fourth consecutive year in 2024. Given the substantial increase in gold prices since the beginning of the year and their ascent to several all-time highs, the Silver Institute suggested that more price gains for silver might have been anticipated against this progressively positive backdrop. Global experts at the Silver Institute are predicting that silver may hit a high of $48 this year, as its market also reacts to geopolitical issues, and a year featuring several significant elections. How do you think the shrinking silver supply will impact future prices? Your opinion matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and subscribe to stay informed on our journey together.